This is my story. It's really all I got left. I decided to share it. My name's Eric Thomas, or at least it used to be. And in my city, there used to be this block located on Sunflower Street. This used to be the center of the city. There was fast food places, malls, and pubs. But more importantly, there was my old daycare. The block was demolished and closed due to a fire set by an unknown person. I never heard what happened or if anyone died. I was like 9 at the time, and I had no need for daycare. Now I'm 22, and I'm a no-life living with my parents. There, I said it. If I'm telling this story, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't want to go to college, and I wasn't really doing anything with my life. I'd sit at home and play World of Warcraft all day. And also, the only reason why this actually happened was because the servers were down and I had nothing to do. So I decided to go visit my old daycare. I found a parking space nearby and walked into the abandoned city block. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. There was nothing left at the pub, and the mall was bombarded with plant life. So I looked around for my old daycare, and then I saw it, my old daycare. It was horrible. The 7-story building was reduced to a 1-story building. The first floor was the actual daycare, and the other 6 were for an orphanage. Surprisingly, the first floor was still kind of intact. I walked close to the door and was suddenly greeted with a cold feeling sent down my spine. I think this was my body's way of telling me this was a bad idea. I ignored it though. I opened the door and walked into the front desk where the kids would check in. I walked down the hall to see the rooms where the kids would play. I remembered where the light switch was, so I turned it on. This is where my story took a turn for the worse. After I turned on the light, I was greeted with hundreds of hanging infant heads hanging by a piece of silver string all over, missing jaws or ears. They all had no eyelids. This was so scary, my body froze in shock. I noticed a shadow was coming into the room. I decided to run. I almost made it into the check room when a silver string wrapped around my feet and dragged me into the room again, where I saw a man with his mouth sewed shut and his eyes missing. He had angel wings sewed to his back. His hands were bound by silver string. He raised his head and looked right at me, along with the hundreds of infant heads. I began to hear a deep, demonic voice, followed by hundreds of crying babies. He said, "We are the abandoned ones. We are the forgotten, the tortured. Only we know true suffering." His eyes started to glow and I was forced to see his past. I saw the daycare being burned. He was at the door. He had time to save several children, but he tried to leave. I then saw hundreds of strings wrapped all around him, sewing his mouth shut, sewing the wings on his back, and then ripping his eyes out, then bounding him and forced him to burn in the fires with the screaming of dying children. I snapped back to life. He then said, "Now it's your turn." I endured his suffering. My arms were ripped off. They ripped the rings off of him and sewed them onto me violently, fast. The pain was horrible, almost as horrible as the pain from them ripping out my eyes from the socket. The screams of pain were muffled by sewing needles. I was then bounded by string hanging from the roof as I watched the guy I saw in my vision run out of the building, slamming the door shut. I now suffer this internal pain, the pain they suffered. We humans are horrible kind. Soon we will all pay. I stay here, suffering, hoping one day someone will take my place. I don't know how long it's been. Time doesn't even exist to me anymore. I know suffering. True suffering. I've changed the details in this story so you can't find this place, so you won't face what I have. For now.